Well, welcome in to My Dogs Are Barking on MPW Digital. My name is Landon, and welcome to the 2025 SEC Men's Basketball Tournament Preview Show, where we will be looking at the actual bracket and breaking down games, kind of the storylines going into Wednesday's slate. And then towards the end of the show, after our break, we will talk about Mississippi State specifically. This is a Mississippi State podcast. So we will do that. But I do kind of, if you're watching on YouTube, which is always good if you want to see some sort of video, obviously, we have the bracket kind of pulled up. If you're listening, like most of our listeners do on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, that's fine. We're just going to explain the bracket to you. And man, but very excited. This is the best time of the year. Finally, it's the SEC tournament on a random Wednesday. You can have a winner go home game, and Arkansas and South Carolina start us off at noon on Wednesday. So, like I said, we'll go over that. We'll break down each kind of matchup. But here's kind of the big thing of what we're doing is kind of looking at who's the biggest sleeper in the tournament. I think there's a one that not a lot of people are talking about. Who needs to have a performance that is a good performance the most? And then lastly, who will end up winning? Last year, the number one seed got taken down, Tennessee, by Mississippi State, funny enough. This year, number one seed Auburn looks very, very strong, but will they end up capturing it all? So we're going to talk about all those things in this episode. It's be a little bit more of a long form episode, but looking forward to it. But before we even get into the preview, we do want to let you know that My Dogs Are Barking is brought to you in part by Arpa's Coffee Bar there in Starkville. Arpa's is located in the heart of the Cotton District. It's such a great place for people to hang out, for conversations, shared memories. Great place to catch up over coffee, but also like they have some great food as well. So it's a great late night hangout spot, and their friendly staff is dedicated to ensure your experience is nothing short of exceptional. And here's the best news: if you've never been to Arpa's before, if you're an Arpa's fanatic, if you are a listener to this show, you get 15% off just for being a listener of the My Dogs Barking podcast. Pretty cool. Just go in, mention, hey, I want the 15% off discount for My Dogs Barking podcast. Jose will get you fixed up and you'll get 15% off. And if you've never tried ARPA's, like, man, go try something to get some money off. Not a bad deal at all. So very exciting for that. Looking forward to kind of figuring out what each team is going to look like in this tournament. Which team is going to be on fire? Which team is going to be getting rich? Which player is going to be getting rich? Kind of building their NIL status for the next year. But hey, what does it mean to be rich? Maybe it's less about reaching a magic number, more about discovering the magic in life. Skip Langley is your Batesville, Mississippi Edward Jones financial advisor serving clients in the area and across the state. Count on him for financial strategies that can help you support a life you love, because the key to being rich is knowing what counts. So contact Skip today at 662-563-9843, and together you can find your rich. Edward Jones, member SIPC. So we look at this tournament that is here, and there's so many different storylines of teams that are on the bubble, that are in, that are out, and even today. So Joe Lunardi released his bracketology today and mentioned that there are a couple teams that are in this tournament, and some teams that have work to do. So Arkansas, a team who's going to be playing first, playing against South Carolina, the 9 seed versus 16. Joe Lunardi has them as the last 4 buys. So very big news for Arkansas. Right now they're in. Oklahoma, who is the 14 seed, is now in the last 4 in. They're the first of the last 4 teams in for Joe Lunardi. So really, I think they probably want to win one more game, but I think they're in. But among those in the SEC tournament that are in the first 4 out is Texas. So Texas has some work to do versus Vanderbilt if they want to be able to kind of get in. But Oklahoma right now is an 11 seed for the NCAA tournament. So looking at that game, South Carolina and Arkansas. Obviously, South Carolina has been the worst team in the league, but it's the best league in the nation. And Colin Murray Boyles is a really, really talented guy. He's going to be a draft pick. But Arkansas seems to be kind of putting it together. And I know, and here's the tough part for Arkansas. They're in right now, but if you were to lose to South Carolina, I don't know if you make it. I really don't. I mean, South Carolina, if you are the worst team in the league, and Arkansas has had a tough year overall, especially for the amount of talent that they've had. You'd think that they would have been better this season, but Arkansas needs a win here. I think they should be able to win relatively easily. And Arkansas, I'm going to be honest, is a team that could go on a run because of the amount of collective talent that they have. And obviously Coach Cal, can make up for many, many things. when it comes to when it comes to coaching. He can overcome some shortcomings, and so I think he should be fine for South Carolina. The real question is, what are they going to do like after that point? I think that's kind of an interesting conversation to have. So we will get into Arkansas's kind of path, but then you go down. So I think they advance there. Arkansas, or pardon, Texas, is going to be going up against Vanderbilt. Obviously, it's in Nashville. They're playing in Bridgestone, and Vanderbilt has been good, but Texas really needs a win here. And Vanderbilt is a team that at the moment, I'm trying to think of where they are in the conversation in terms of like seeding, because Arkansas is looking like the 11, and is Vanderbilt in? I don't even know if yeah, Vanderbilt's an 11 seed. Okay, that's what I was thinking. So Vanderbilt's in at this point. Texas has to win, and honestly, Coach Terry probably needs to win to save his job. Um, I think Vanderbilt's the better team, but I'm actually picking Texas to win here. I think they've been shooting it really well as of late, and in a one-off game where Texas really needs it, I think they'll be able to notch a win over Vanderbilt, close in a close game. I wouldn't be surprised if Vanderbilt wins the next two games, wins this one and versus A&M. But I'm picking Texas to actually win this one because, like I said, Vanderbilt's in. Texas is really needing a win. Then you got Mississippi State and LSU. We mentioned at the end of the show, we're going to go into detail about Mississippi State's particular path, but right now, just kind of looking at the overall picture, Mississippi State's a better team than LSU. But the last time they met, what was it, 2 weeks ago, State beat them 81-68, but it wasn't a crazy convincing win for Mississippi State. You really want more out of them. I think State's able to win this game. Now, the real question is what happens in the next game versus Missouri. I think that might be a different story, but I think State should be able to get the win there versus LSU. I'm a little surprised that they're keeping Matt McMahon another year. I was talking with a friend. It's so crazy to me. Like LSU has so many resources and they're so good at so many things. I mean, like so many things. But basketball just seems to be one thing they don't really care about. And so looks like they're going to kind of recalibrate their NIL and try to kind of pony up, so to speak, for next season. Because it's odd seeing them not be as competitive. But Mississippi State should get that win. Oklahoma and Georgia. So Georgia's in. Oklahoma is one of the last four teams in right now. Actually, technically, they're the first of the four teams in. I like Georgia. Georgia's been playing well. I mean, you have Jeremiah Fears for Oklahoma, who's a lottery pick. You got Asa Newell, who's likely a lottery pick, if not top 20 pick or so. So you have two really good freshmen going at it. I think Oklahoma, that they've been playing a little bit better as of late, and that matters. So I'm going to pick Oklahoma to win that game over Georgia, and if not, I don't know how Oklahoma feels good going into the tournament. So after that, going back up to the very top, you got Arkansas and you have Ole Miss. And with Ole Miss, they're a team that just came off of a really big win just a few days ago. Obviously, Chris Beard has them playing really well. And they lose versus Florida, but before then they beat Oklahoma by 3. Then they play Tennessee at home, and they beat them 78-76. So a huge win versus a very good team in Tennessee. They lose to Florida by 19, but Florida's obviously very good. And we'll talk about Florida in just a little bit. I think when you look at Ole Miss and Arkansas earlier in the season when Arkansas and Ole Miss played no, excuse me. I apologize. No, they have not played. No, yes, they have. That's what I was thinking. That in Fayetteville, Ole Miss got the win, 73-66. It was like the second game of the SEC season. And so they got the win over Arkansas, but Arkansas has been playing better in this game. So I think Ole Miss is better than Arkansas as overall. But I don't know. I got this feeling that Arkansas has got they do have a collective amount of talent. Like think about, Jonas Adu averages what, not too many points a game and ends up being the top scorer in the win versus Mississippi State, 93-92. They just have so many different guys who can score and can do really well. So I'm going to take Arkansas beating Ole Miss here, despite the fact that I think Ole Miss is a better team than them. I think I've got this thought of how Arkansas is playing recently that they could go on a little bit of a run in the tournament, which is honestly what they need. Arkansas just beat Vanderbilt on the road. And then they beat Mississippi State at home. They have win that then they played A&M and Auburn very close, and Alabama close. They only lost to Alabama by 4. So I think Arkansas is going to be able to get the win there. Moving down, Texas and Texas Tech and Texas A&M rather. I'm going to bring this up about Texas A&M. When you think about teams that need a performance that's really good, it's Texas A&M. Texas A&M has really been slipping as of late. Like they get this big win versus Auburn, but before then they lose 4 straight. They lose versus Mississippi State, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Florida. Then they beat an Auburn team that also I feel like is not playing their best basketball right now, and they beat them. But before then they were really skidding. I think just from a context of needing kind of confidence going forward, A&M needs a very good tournament. And right now, A&M is a 3 seed in the tournament. And I got to be honest, I don't know if they're a super strong 3 seed, especially with their inability to score. They just play very good defense, and Wade Taylor, the fourth, is very good. But I think they should be able to beat this Texas team. One win from Texas is probably not enough to get into the tournament. They might be close because the bubble this year is very weak. But Texas A&M, I think, should be able to squeeze past them. They need a good performance. Just from a confidence level, I think going forward, I wouldn't be shocked if A&M loses 2 straight games, lose here and then lose the first round of the tournament. I just don't have a ton of confidence in them right now. Despite the fact they just beat Auburn, but Auburn was really not playing well at all throughout that game. Was not able to shoot, which is very uncharacteristic. But A&M's defense held them to 72. So that's got to be another part of it. Then you scroll down to Mississippi State and Missouri. Mississippi State, last time they played Missouri, got throttled. I mean, Missouri was shooting it all over Mississippi State. Caleb Grill, who's the 6th man of the year in the SEC, unbelievable shooter. Mississippi State just does not have an answer for shooters. And it's kind of important in this time of in this kind of time and period in basketball to be able to cover the 3. Mississippi State cannot defend the 3 for anything. And I think Missouri would be able to handle Mississippi State. Like, would it be shocked if Mississippi State found a way to win? I'm going to be honest with you a little bit. They don't play well against teams who can shoot, and it's all because of their help defense. One of the things that makes Mississippi State good is the same thing that kind of kills them in the end, and that is the help defense allows them, whenever players get into the paint, Cam Matthews is able to come up and strip the ball, Josh Hubbard, and they can kind of work on turnovers. But the problem is they leave an open shooter. Well, if you leave an open shooter versus Missouri, you're in a lot of trouble because like several guys can shoot the ball really well. So I think Missouri should be able to get that win. State just is not defending the 3 very well, and honestly has not had an answer for it the entire season. You'd have to hope and pray that Missouri misses a lot of shots, and good luck. It's not going to be the case. I think Missouri wins that game. Then you go down. I had Oklahoma in a very close game, pulling off a win versus Georgia. Then you have Oklahoma and Kentucky. Kentucky wins that game, but I do want us to talk about Kentucky. I think when you think about sleeper teams in this SEC tournament, it's Kentucky all day. Kentucky's a 6 seed, but they have been playing very well as of late. 21-10. They're not the ideal Kentucky teams of the past, but they just went on the road and beat Missouri, which no one is doing. Always playing very well. He's led them in scoring the past 3 out of the last 4 games. Had 22 versus Missouri. Carr is playing really well. Amari Williams is a very good defender and very good rebounder. The transfer from Drexel. Kentucky, I think they have an opportunity to put it all together here. And Kentucky, I think, is going to win this game. And I think they're a sleeper. I think that they're a team you really do have to watch out for going forward. Going back up to the very top, Arkansas and Auburn. As much as I think Arkansas has potential to play well as of late, they're not going to be any match for Auburn. And I would love to see an Ole Miss Auburn game here. Would be huge and very much could happen. But I think Auburn's going to advance there. It's kind of an easier one. Texas A&M and Tennessee. I told you A&M needs a very big a big tournament to kind of feel good kind of going forward. I think everyone would kind of acknowledge that. But not a lot of people are talking about Tennessee. Tennessee just lost to Ole Miss on the road, barely. But then before then they beat Alabama on the buzzer beater. They went on the road at A&M, this very team, and beat them. Lanier went for 30 points in that game. They just had beaten Vanderbilt at home. They're spectacular, man. They're really, really good. So I think Tennessee is going to be able to pull off that win. I wouldn't let the Ole Miss loss scare you too much. Then you go down to Kentucky and Alabama. Now, last time they met, Kentucky was able to play Alabama really, really not as well as you'd think. I think it was 96, like 96-83 or something in Alabama's favor. It was in Tuscaloosa. But you don't feel great about that if you're, it was on the road. 96-83 was the final. And then also in Rupp Arena, they lost Alabama 102-97. So Alabama's found a way to beat this team. And as I mentioned, Kentucky's a sleeper. They could go and win this game, but it seems like Nate Oates has kind of figured out how to beat this Kentucky team. If you already done it twice on each court, I think you should be able to figure it out in Nashville as well. Alabama should win that game. Going back up to the top, Tennessee and Auburn facing off. Two really, really good teams going into this the rest of this season. The one time that they met this season, it was not high scoring at all. Tennessee lost on the road at Auburn. 51-53 was the final. That's crazy, man. That's crazy to think that's the final. That was the final score. It was a very obviously very close game, and the defense was plentiful throughout the way. But I think Tennessee could get the win here. I'd pick them to advance. Auburn is it's not they hadn't taken like a big step back or anything. I just don't think they're playing their best. And also, you have to wonder the mental capacity of it. Like, they have a number 1 seed wrapped up. It's all over. Like, it's theirs to have. So I think they should be able to win versus Auburn there to kind of advance to that to the final game. Oh man, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself big time. So Alabama does beat Kentucky, but moving up, Florida and Missouri would play next. And I'm gonna tell you something about Florida in terms of who I'm picking to win it all. It's Florida. Florida has been on fire. They're 27-4. They have won 9 of their last 10 games. 9 of their last 10 is that's an incredible feat. Including in there that they beat Ole Miss, as I mentioned, by 19. They went on the road at Alabama and beat Alabama, which no one does. They beat them by 5. They beat A&M at home by 19. They did suffer the loss at Georgia by 5 points. That was just their fourth loss of the season. But having Alex Condon back has been huge for them. And Condon, he scored 27 versus Alabama. He's a problem, man. He's just so tough because he rebounds so well and can get open shot and kind of find it in the paint. I think Florida is a team that is going to win the entire thing. Florida will be able to. I think they'll be able to take down Missouri. The one time they did play was at home. It was Missouri handed them their first loss their second loss in the SEC, 83-82. But that was all the way back on January 14th. So I think Florida will be able to get the win here, and I'm actually picking Florida to win it all. So going back up to the top, we have Tennessee advancing there, but when you look at Florida and Alabama, again, they just faced off. Florida just went and beat Alabama on their home floor, which is very tough to do. I still think Alabama is really good, but I love the way Florida is playing. I'm going to pick Florida to win that game. And then you got Tennessee and Florida in the final. And this has been such a weird final because this would be the third time these teams have faced. The 2 games that they faced off, January 7th, Florida played Tennessee at home and beat them by 30 points when they were the number 1 team. Then they went on the road at Tennessee and they lost by 20 points. So someone's about to win by 10. I don't know who it is, but both of these teams have kind of traded back and forth. And I think I'm going to pick Florida to win this game. But man, what a final that would be to kind of close out the deepest that this conference has ever been with a champion like Florida. I think's really, really good, man. Todd Golden has redeemed himself as a coach coming from the past couple of years, and Florida's looking really, really good going into March, going into the big dance. So we're going to take a quick break and hear some messages from MPW Digital. But when we come back, we're going to talk about Mississippi State's path specifically and kind of where they stand in March.
All MPW Digital podcasts are brought to you by our friends at Parish Brewing Company, located in the heart of Cajun country in Broussard, Louisiana. Parish Brewing Company's simple goal is to make awesome craft brewed beer, and they do it remarkably well. The doctor is in, introducing their new go-to IPA, Dr. Juice. It's a highly crushable juice bomb, dry hopped with a blend of their favorite hand-selected hops from the Yakima Valley in Washington. Dr. Juice's drinkability is sneaky good, considering it clocks in at 6% ABV. The pour glows a rich cantaloupe hue with a thick frosted haze, soft mouthfeel, an aroma and taste that's full of passion fruit, papaya, and blood orange, making it drink like a glass of freshly squeezed juice. They also have Ghost in the Machine. It's a double IPA brewed with obscene quantities of hand-selected Citra hops from Yakima Valley. Expect pungent grapefruit flavors and aromas, tropical fruit, less harsh bitterness than most IPAs. Again, it's Parish Brewing Company. Wherever you get your beer, check out Parish. Make sure that you look for them, because any beer that you get from Parish is going to be absolutely outstanding. Thank you from MPW
Brought to you by
Digital.
Easy Hemp Company. Easy is a hemp-infused sparkling water. It's a guilt-free alcohol alternative, a natural way to relax and unwind. It's all natural. Made with real fruit, no added sugar, low calories, gluten-free. One 12-ounce can of Easy has 3 milligrams of THC. With Easy, it's easy to avoid the gummy scare and control your experience. So change the can, not the ritual. It's easy. Visit easyhempco.com to view the Easy Finder to find Easy near you. Easy is Farm Bill compliant with hemp derived from THC, CBD extracts. Easy is for people 21 and older. Enjoy responsibly.
We're looking at Mississippi State's path now. We've already gone through the preview of the SEC tournament, but looking at Mississippi State specifically, kind of where are they? So that they finished the season in a manner that they're not excited about. Which, last year they finished the season in a not a great spot. I mean, they lose their final 4 games. They lose to Kentucky. They lose at Auburn. They lose at A&M. Then they lose to South Carolina at home. Then they go into the SEC tournament last season. They beat LSU. Then they beat Tennessee, who was the number 1 seed, before a really big kind of rock fight with Auburn. They end up losing. So they've done well in March, then go into 2022-23. So Chris James' first season, they go to the tournament and they beat the SEC tournament. They beat Florida. Then they lose to Alabama by like 30. I mean, they get just clobbered by them. And so now you think, okay, well, how are they going to do? Because Jans has done well traditionally in this tournament, but they should be able to beat this LSU team. I don't think that should be any sort of problem at all. If you lose LSU, you got a bigger issue. But they just have not been able to answer the bell of defending shooters, and Missouri's got plenty of them, man. And you're going to have a lot of problems. So I think Mississippi State goes one and done in the SEC tournament. And then right now, Joe Lunardi has Mississippi State as an 8 seed facing Creighton, which Creighton is not a team that's like the last 8-9 matchup you want to face, because Creighton can shoot and State cannot defend. And then this would also tie you in with facing Houston after that. So yeah, you do not want to be matched up with Creighton. To me, I mean, they've got some really good shooters, and including in that is was it Ryan Kalbrenner, who's a 7-1 center, averages 20 points a game, shoots 40% from 3 as a 5, is just bananas, and he almost averages a double in there. But then they have several other guys who can shoot really well, that shoot 38% or better. Stephen Ashworth is a guy that can shoot really well. This is not a team that you want to end up going against, because, as I mentioned, like, there's other teams that don't shoot traditionally well, but will get more open looks versus Mississippi State, so they end up shooting a little bit better. But for teams that already shoot a high shooting percentage, who then go against Mississippi State, because of the defensive strategy of covering in the paint, you leave a shooter open, and State just gets annihilated by it. And so, even though versus Arkansas, State was not demolished by 3-pointers, you just don't want this kind of matchup. So if State wants to avoid, because I've said this all along, we'll kind of wrap here pretty soon. But Mississippi State's biggest goal, to me, is winning a game in the NCAA tournament. You've seen Jans go now for the third straight year, but he's been bounced out of the first round in the first 2 games, in each year. So you want to see like some sort of progress to say, okay, well, we got to the big dance the third year in a row, and this year we won a tournament game, and it's something to build on. And in order to do that, I just don't know if there's a scenario you win another game if you don't find a way to get off of that 8 line. Either that, or you're just gonna have to hope you play somebody else. So, for instance, another 9 seed projected at least is Georgia, which obviously that they're not going to let those teams play. Another 9 seed is New Mexico. That's a team that can score. They beat UCLA earlier in the season, but they're not as like 3-point centric as a Creighton is. However, they're a team that still can shoot the ball very, very well. And Dent averages about 37% from 3, but they have beaten up on some really good teams this season. And also they've been very tested. So I would not want to go up against them either. But as you go through the line, I mean, what's someone who's a 9 seed that you'd want to face? Like what's a picture, or what's a team that you would feel good about facing? West Virginia? I mean, I guess if you had to pick your poison, State's got to get off of this 8-9 line if they want a chance to win. To me, if they want a chance to win another one, because if you end up being a 10 seed, or 7 seed, you can get to face a more favorable matchup. Obviously, in the end, matchups are a big deal, but this is the NCAA tournament, man. There's not going to be a bunch of bad teams that are in the tournament that you have an opportunity to face. So State needs to win 2 here to get off of that 8 seed to even have a chance. I just don't see them being able to respond versus Missouri, but you got to get the job done versus LSU first. And then we'll go from there. So later on this week, we will have we'll react to the game Wednesday night, LSU, Mississippi State, get that uploaded, and then a preview for Missouri. If they end up winning, I'm not counting any chickens where they hatch. I don't have a lot of confidence in Mississippi State right now. But as I mentioned, and I do want to hear from you, who is your biggest sleeper in this tournament? For me, it's Kentucky. I think Kentucky is really, really good. I think they have a chance that they could take down an Alabama. It's possible. But I think Kentucky is a team that not enough people are talking about. Who needs to have a good performance to you? Let me know in the comments. Let me know on X or Twitter. I think it's Texas A&M. I think that they really need some confidence going into the year. They lost 4 straight before winning their last 2. And then who's going to win it all? I know Auburn slipped the other day, but they're really, really good. I think Florida's going to win the whole thing. They've won 3 straight huge games. A&M at home, at Alabama, and then versus Ole Miss. I think that they are showing a lot of confidence going forward, and I'm picking Florida to win it all. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think via X. And thank you so much for listening to the My Dogs Are Barking podcast. We'll see you next time.